Hi everyone, this is Dr. Eldridge, and I wanted to go ahead and quickly go over the student case evaluation form because you're going to be using this not just for your individual term project, but for your team project as well. And so I wanted to make sure you were clear on the different sections of the evaluation form. First of all, I want to start with the issue, and we start with the issue because that is the question that has to be answered in any given situation. For your individual term project, you're actually evaluating a case, a business type of case study, and even though it's a legal case, it has business implications because it really is all going to the issue of good business decision making. So we start with the issue, and the issue is the question. So you never want to state your issue as an affirmative statement or as a thesis statement because that's not what it is. An issue with regard to the law is the legal question that has to be answered in the case or the situation for the hypothetical with regard to the team project. A good rule of thumb is to always use the word whether at the beginning of your sentence because that term takes any affirmative statement and turns it into a question. So the sky is gray today. Whether the sky is gray today would be the question. So now you've taken that affirmative statement and you've turned it into an actual question with just the use of the word whether. Now for the facts, this is something that a lot of students get hung up on, and it's very important that you understand. Facts are those things that can be proven with evidence, whether it is verbal evidence or whether it is documentary evidence or what we call physical evidence. It has to be something that you can prove. Just because someone says something does not make it a fact. So a fact has to be something that you can prove. And when you're looking at the facts, when you're evaluating a case or when you're evaluating your hypothetical, you're looking at what circumstances led to the plaintiff wanting to file the suit or the plaintiff filing the suit. And those are actually the facts. Now there may be some additional facts with regard to the issue itself, but those are the facts that you're focusing on. So you have to paint a picture, and the only way that you can paint a picture is to discuss the facts. Now for this number 2, the facts section, you're not only going to identify the facts for the issue, and when we're talking about for the issue, we mean looking at it for the individual term project from the standpoint of the state. What are the facts for the issue? So what are the facts that are going to support the state's position? The facts against the issue are what facts go against the state's case. What facts actually support the defendant? Now, just because the defendant says something doesn't mean that's a fact. The defendant's theory on or position or defense is not a fact. The procedural posture of the case is not a fact. So as I was saying, the facts against the issue are the facts that are actually going to support the defendant's position. Now, the defendant saying something doesn't necessarily mean that is a fact. You have to look at what evidence the defendant is using in order to support his position or her position or its position if it's a company. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about the facts for the issue and the facts against the issue. Now that takes us down to section 3, which is identify relevant laws and regulations. The laws and regulations that you're going to identify are those that were specifically needed in order to reach the decision. So for the case you're evaluating, you have to look at what law was needed and what law was utilized with regard to the issue that had to be answered in the case. And that's what we're talking about when we talk about relevant laws. For your team project, what you're going to be looking at is whatever laws are pertinent to the scenario that you need to look at in order to make a decision on the viability of whatever issues are taking place in your fact scenario. So the decision holding, your decision in holding should always directly answer the case issue or the issue that's being presented. So what you're going to do with the issue in holding is you're actually going to mirror your issue, answering it in the affirmative or negative. For example, whether the sky is gray today. If the sky is gray today, your answer would be the sky is gray today. If in fact your issue is whether the plaintiff ran the stop sign and hit the defendant's car, injuring the defendant, if in fact the evidence demonstrates that the plaintiff did run the stop sign and hit the defendant's car, your answer or holding would be the plaintiff ran the stop sign and hit the defendant's car, injuring the defendant. That would then be your holding. So what you're doing is you're just flipping the issue, and you're either answering it in the affirmative, if that's what the facts and the law demonstrate, or you're answering it in the negative. And that's how you do that with mirroring the actual issue. The rationale, on the other hand, is the longest part of your evaluation form, and that in fact is where you discuss how the court for your individual term project reached its decision, or for your team project how you and your team reached your decision. But for the rationale section, you have to keep answering the question why. Why? And it is how you explain the court's findings. You explain how the court got from point A to point B. You explain by using the facts that are relevant to the case and the law. And so you have to go through the elements of the law, and you have to demonstrate how the facts do or do not apply to those elements of the law. And so that's going to be the longest part of your case brief, because you want to go into detail explaining the court's position and how the court reached its decision. Remember, you're synthesizing those facts, which means you're melding those facts into the law, or you're explaining how those facts don't fit into the law. So that's where the rationale kind of brings everything in the evaluation form together at that point. Now 6 and 7 really go to that business decision making part of your assignment. And what I want you to do with number 6 is, based upon this evaluation, what is your opinion? And thinking about it from the standpoint of not just the general standpoint or the legal standpoint, and trying to take away any personal biases out of it, but tell me from a business standpoint, what is your opinion on what took place and how the situation could have been avoided? Then for 7, I want you to get really specific in number 7. And think of number 7 as the implementation stage if you were putting together a business plan. And what you're doing with this part of it is you're actually going to discuss specific points that you would implement if you were the CEO of a company, to make sure what happened in the individual term project case were not to happen with your company. So that's what you want to focus on. So I want to see specific policies that you would implement for your company to demonstrate how you would tackle that issue so that it wouldn't happen again. For the team project, you're going to be looking at it from the same perspective. Whatever your issue is, what policies would you implement in order to make sure whatever happened in the case scenario you were given would not happen again in the future? And that's it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me or call me, and I'm willing to Skype with you if you'd like to do that. Everyone, please take your time on this. You're going to need to put some time into your individual term project and the team project, because you not just have the writing component, but you have the research component for the team project, and you really want to take your time and dissect the case for the individual term project so that you make sure you're heading in the right direction with the issue. Good luck, and again, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me or call me.